What's up, rushers? Michael here, back on the channel. Today we are tackling stage pushing in Summoner's War Rush. I'll share top formations for free to play to low spenders and high spenders to whales, plus tips like kiting to conquer tough stages. We'll also cover the best farming setup and where to farm for max resources. Let's jump right into the guide. This is one of the best free to play stage pushing formations that you can make. The great thing about this formation is you don't really need high star investments like you see on the screen here with these units. For example, starting with Rina, you really just want her at the 3-star unit level. And if you want to go for her even further, definitely go for the 3-star with Devamon. The reason Rina is in this formation is because of her massive buff to ranged allies, which covers attack. Now this increases the attack by all of your ranged allies by 20%, so she is very crucial within the formation. But like we mentioned, this is a free to play build, so just having a copy of her will be fine, along with Ceres offering another great buff to ranged allies, and this time it is crush damage, so she is very vital in the formation. Moving on to Shihwa, just need a single copy of her. The reason being is because of her debuff, a level 5 movement speed down, and this decreases movement speed by 25%, which is very critical in stage pushing. Followed by Melissa, without fail one of the best units in the game. Melissa will offer you the Amplify buff to all allies for 10 seconds, and this is critical for stage pushing because it increases the attack modifier points by 60%, and this applies to every hit, which means your entire formation will be very strong. You only really need a copy of her if you are low spender to free to play. However, I would get her to a minimum 3-star. Along with Kahli, Kahli is here for the debuff defensive down for 2 seconds. A lot of people won't have Light Monkey built, so Kahli is a better version of Light Monkey in my opinion, especially with her being a ranged unit. All those buffs that I mentioned before will apply to Kahli. Now on to Artamiel, another crucial unit you want when you're stage pushing in Summoner's War Rush. This debuff decreases damage res by 20%, and it also lasts for 10 seconds. So if you can have this applied at the start of battle, it will help you dramatically during stage pushing. So if you can get him minimum to 3-star for his exclusive skill to happen at the very start of battle, I will definitely go for it. A single copy of Artamiel will be fine because this ability will still happen anyway. Now moving on to Anne, she is here only for the crit damage up buff to all ranged allies for 10 seconds. Yet again, you want to deal as much damage as possible, especially in stages, so this exclusive skill will help with that. Now on to Grogen, my opinion, another great unit that you must have within the formation, offering a Petrified CC effect for 2.5 seconds. Not only does this make the boss not able to perform actions, but also decreases the boss evasion by 20%, which is critical in stage pushing in my opinion. And he also offers this great crush rate up buff to ranged allies for 2 seconds. Like we mentioned, pairing that with Anne is an extreme game changer when it comes to stage pushing. So make sure you have Grogen in your formation, even if you have a single copy of him. Now on to Elucia. She is here for the Frostbite damage over time effect. Now this deals damage equal to 20% of attack every 0.2 seconds. And don't forget, she also casts a level 4 movement speed down debuff for 2 seconds. And this is very crucial for stage pushing, so make sure you slot her in within the formation. Now on to Jeanne. You really want her in your stage pushing formation because she's the only unit in the game that offers an attack speed up buff to every single ally for 10 seconds. This alone makes Jeanne a must-have unit inside of every single formation within the game. So make sure, even if you're low spend and free to play, one single copy of her will make the difference. Now on to Laima, one of the best units in the game, only unit that offers both root and blind status effects. Now root disables affected targets from moving, so the boss won't be able to do anything at all, along with blind causes the boss to miss basic attacks. She offers 2 fantastic status effects in battle. She is a must-have unit within here, a minimum 3-star investment, and if you can get her with the Devilmon as well for her 3-star awakening skill, having her exclusive skill trigger at the start of battle will make the difference. On to Cassandra, another must-have unit within stage pushing. She offers so much DPS in the formation, along with one of the best buffs in the game, which is crit rate up to all allies for 10 seconds. Make sure you are slotting in Cassandra in your stage pushing formation. Now on to Sabrina. The higher you have her, the better. However, she still is a beast even if you have her a single copy, or 3 to 5 star is where you want to have her. However, she does offer the double hit rate up buff to all allies for 10 seconds. This is very critical in stage pushing. As you can probably see a pattern forming, a lot of these units have buffs that applies to all allies, so Sabrina is no different. Not only does she buff all allies with double hit rate, she does the most damage out of any other character in the game, so you want to make sure she's in the formation. Finally, finishing off with Ariel, one of the best, if not the best, tanks within Summoner's War Rush. He offers this incredible protection shield effect to allies for 5 seconds. Now this blocks damage equal to 25% of HP, making your formation last longer in stage pushing battles. You want to have Ariel in your formation, even if you have him low invested in stars. Moving on to the best formation if you're a high spender to a whale, starting off with Delphoi, in my opinion a very underrated unit within Summoner's War Rush. She can work even if you have a single copy of her. She offers a great sleep CC effect for 2.5 seconds, along with a crucial crush damage up buff to all ranged allies for 2 seconds. This is very critical and makes Delphoi a game changer when it comes to stage pushing, so you definitely want to slot her in. If you're a whale, you definitely want to get the 3-star awakening skill with Devilmon. If you want to deal extra damage, then definitely go for the 7-star skill with Devilmon. On to Cassandra, definitely, like I mentioned before, great DPS within the game, offering the crit rate up buff to all allies for 10 seconds. But if you're a whale, I'd recommend you go all the way with her skills using Devilmon. Now I would skip over the 5-star skill, however her 7-star skill makes her an absolute machine DPS, especially with her increased attack speed by 15%, so definitely slot her in and invest in her high if you're a whale. The same applies with Laima. She's slowly turning into my GOAT, especially if you have her highly invested in. Definitely want to go for the 3, 5, and 7-star skills with Devilmon, because like we mentioned with her status effects, Root and Blind are completely game changers, along with increasing crit rate by an additional 10% and crit damage by 20%, followed by another one which is damage dealt by 20%. Laima really does it all, especially damage wise, so you must have her highly built. Light Monkey really isn't needed in the formation, however I do have him highly invested, and I think a lot of whales definitely have him highly invested. The reason being is he does offer an incredible defense down debuff effect, and this decreases defense by 20%, so this casted at the start of battle makes the boss way more easier to take out. If you want him to deal a bit more damage, then definitely go for his 7-star awakening skill with Devilmon. However, he is not really doing damage similar to Laima or Sabrina, so I would just invest in his 3-star awakening skill with Devilmon. Melissa, of course, if you're a whale, you definitely want to have her 3, 5, and 7-star skills with Devilmon. She is an absolute game changer, especially in stage pushing. If you have her 5-star skill with Devilmon, then she can basically be a tank. with her 5 stacked shields that she applies to herself at the start of battle. This makes her block the boss attacks a certain number of times. Pairing this with her high DPS just makes her a fantastic unit all around. So you definitely want to slot in Melissa and invest in her very high. You might be shocked with this pick, but Verde is in the formation, like we mentioned, with all those buffs to range allies and just all allies in general. He does offer an attack speed up buff to himself for 10 seconds. Now, like I mentioned just before, with all those buffs applied to Verde, he will do a significant amount of damage. And don't forget, he also casts a bleed damage over time effect for 2 seconds. He is not an incredibly high damage dealer. However, I do really like this freestyle exclusive skill. So if you pair it with the freestyle awakening skill with Devilmon, this will apply at the start of battle, making him a very good DPS for stage pushing. However, he does drop off in other modes, so at least use him while you can. Now on to Tesarion, another unit where you either go for 1 copy or you go for the free 5 and 7 star investments. If you're a whale, definitely invest in all of his awakening skills because he turns into an absolute DPS GOAT. This character is really catered to the whales and he is really dependent on his overall investment. So please keep that in mind with Tesarion. Yes, he does a lot of damage. Don't get me wrong, an incredible unit. However, his high investment does take him down a few points. But definitely slot in Tesarion if you have him highly invested in. Grogen, of course, you want to slot in within the formation, offering the crush rate up buff to range allies for 2 seconds. He is very critical, especially if you have him at the 5 and 7 star awakening skills, making the crowd control effect last even longer, along with the damage dealt under that crowd control effect, followed by him doing even more damage. He is an overall superstar when it comes to stage pushing. Along with Vanessa, you might be wondering, why is she in the formation? She does offer the attack up buff to melee allies for 2 seconds. So when we talk about Melissa and Artamiel or Jeanne, great melee units, their attack will increase under this buff, making Vanessa a very good unit to have here. Along with her stun CC effect, makes the boss unable to perform actions, which is very critical for stage pushing. Paired with her freestyle awakening skill, if you can get this with Devilmon, this ability will happen at the start of battle. And also, some people are saying her 5-star exclusive awakening skill is also worth the investment. Of course, you want to invest high in Artamiel, especially if you're a high spender to a whale. If you can get him to the free 5 and 7-star awakening skills with Devilmon, he is a game changer in stage pushing in my opinion, especially offering himself so much attack buffs during the battle. So if you're struggling over time, if you're 10-20 seconds into the battle, Artamiel will get even stronger. If you haven't already, please invest into him. On to the new unit, Anavel. She is here for the frostbite damage over time effect, along with her movement speed up buff to all allies for 10 seconds. The main goal, if you're a high spender to whale, is to crush the stage battles as fast as possible. She is a must-have unit inside of the formation. If you can build her even higher with her 5-star awakening skill, her range does increase by an extra 3, along with applying herself a crit rate up buff by 10%, which is very critical if you want her to do even more damage, along with her 7-star awakening skill, which in my opinion is a must-have, because damage will increase under frostbite by 10%, along with her overall damage dealt will increase by an additional 20%. If you haven't pulled for Anavel, as of recording, she is still in a rate up banner, so definitely invest in her to a minimum of 3-star units. On to Sabrina, no questions asked, free 5 and 7-star awakening skill with Devilmon minimum. She is the GOAT of Summoner's War Rush. So there's really no more discussion with Sabrina. The higher you have her invested in, the better she becomes. Of course, Rina being in the formation again, she is such a great unit, especially applying the attack up buff to all ranged allies for 10 seconds. Also wanted to note that she does remove shield effects from the boss. So if a boss does have a shield effect, she is a direct counter to that. But the same applies with Sabrina to Rina. The higher you have her, the better she becomes. I can't wait until she comes into a rate up banner, because we are going all the way with her. Just taking a look at her additional 7-star buffs, increases crush rate by 10%, along with attack by 20%. Finally, her damage dealt by 20% too. She will be a busted unit in Summoner's War Rush, so make sure you're slotting her in. Because like you can see at the top, I only have her at 3-star, and I'm still using her in pretty much all of the game modes. Of course, you want to slot in Jeanne. She offers the attack speed up buff to all allies for 10 seconds, which makes everyone attack faster. If you're a high spender to whale, this is very critical to have, so you definitely want to pair this with her 3-star awakening skill with Devilmon. And if you can, I would go for her 5-star awakening skill, along with her 7-star skill as well, because she will do a ton more damage under both of these buffs, being crit damage and also additional damage dealt. So make sure you are investing high in Jeanne. If you are still struggling with both of the builds that I provided for free to play to whales, then I will discuss an additional technique you can use to push stages, and that is kiting. Now for this example, I am in the official Summoners War Rush Discord within a certain area where you can post fantastic guides like this one. Shout out to Topic for creating this amazing kiting collection that you can also access in the link in the description. An example I want to show you is from Mika. Shout out to Mika for providing this video. So you want to manually move around the map using the joystick you see on the bottom right of the screen. Then you want to make sure the boss is following you until you see that blue bar fully filled for every single unit. Then you want to attack the boss, and look at this. Every skill is happening at once and you are able to take down the boss really easily. Want to show you a specific example of kiting in Summoner's War Rush. Now where I'm at in the game, I'm at stage 8400, so I'm unable to show you this because I can't spawn in a boss. In this video, this was Topic's formation. This was around 5800 to 6100. With the kiting guide, you definitely want to spawn in the boss first. As you can see at the bottom right, you want to move away manually from the boss until you have most of the skills ready, as you can see by that blue bar. And look at this, absolutely crushing the boss because we kited it away. And even if you are lower power, you can get the boss down because you have kited it away enough so that all the skills triggered, and like you can see here, pretty much dominated that stage for the boss. A huge thanks to Topic for creating this massive kiting collection. Remember, this is linked in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. Now that we have discussed how to beat stages within Summoner's War Rush, whether it's beating stages normally or using that awesome strategy called kiting, now I'll discuss the best farming build that you can use. We did talk about majority of the units within the formation here, but I'll definitely touch on the monsters you must have for farming, and that starts off with Anavel, offering that incredible movement speed up buff. And this, remember, applies to every single ally. This increases movement speed by 35%. When you're farming, you are moving to different areas, fighting a lot of mobs. So it's going to lower that total time it takes to get to the next stage of mobs that you have to attack, which means you will farm even more resources. If you don't have Anavel, then definitely slot in Remy. Remy again will offer a movement speed up buff to all allies for 10 seconds. However, the notable difference, Anavel offered 35%, Remy offers 28%. So if you can, make sure to use Anavel, but Remy is fine as well. Another must-have unit in here, I can't stress this enough, is Chasun. She will make sure all of your units will stay alive. With her heal over time effect, this recovers HP equal to 20% of attack every 0.2 seconds, paired with her freestyle awakening skill with Devamon, will make sure all of your units will stay alive. She is a must-have. There is no replacement for Chasun within the farming formation. I know a lot of people might not have a light monkey built or even a single copy of him. There is a replacement for him. We take light monkey out and sub in Kahli. She will offer the same debuff, being decreases defense by 16%. Of course, it's not light monkeys at 20%. However, it's the exact debuff that you really want. And a bonus with Kahli is that she is a ranged unit. Along, she also applies a crit rate up buff to herself for 10 seconds, meaning she will do a lot of damage, holding her own in the farming team. Another must-have is definitely Ariel in my opinion, making sure all of your allies are protected by his shield, which will block all the damage all of those mobs are dealing to your formation. So you definitely want to have Ariel within your farming setup. So that covers the best farming team to use in Summoner's War Rush and some replacement monsters that you can use. However, what stage do I farm? This depends on your maximum stage and also depends on your area survey. If we go into the area survey, you definitely want to focus on each individual area's attack and crit damage stats. For example, if I had Sierra completely blank, so pretend none of these were completed, I would go back. My maximum stage is 8400, right? I would look for the stage that I need to farm for Sierra, which is staged between 5800 to 6100, and I would go ahead and farm this area out. Once I complete Sierra's attack and crit damage stats, I would then move on to Workshop. Again, my maximum stage was 8400. That means I would farm stage 6101. So I hope you can understand the pattern I'm going for here. You want to keep this consistent for every single stage that you are farming. Once you have all of the stages with attack and crit damage stats, then in my opinion, you want to farm the entire stage as a whole, like I did with Sierra and Workshop here. What I'm focusing right now for myself, since I've completed all of Sierra and Workshop stats, I will now farm the Ancient Tree area. 8400 is my max stage. Go into the map to change my stage. I will farm 6400. Alright, that wraps up our stage pushing and farming guide. If you found this helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe for more Summoner's War Rush content. Let me know in the comments what stage you are currently tackling. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.